Hi, I'm Gretta Kruesi, and you're watching My State Matters TV. Today we're in Beaufort talking to Senator Davis about water withdrawal legislation. Senator Davis, thank you for joining me today.
Pleasure to be here.
Why is water withdrawal legislation important to South Carolina?
It's important for a couple of reasons. On a purely practical level, let's look at the dispute we now have with North Carolina. The United States Supreme Court has accepted jurisdiction over that case, and it will ultimately equitably allocate the Catawba River between the two states. One of the factors that the Supreme Court will look at in determining who gets what water is what state has demonstrated and a willingness to be responsible in managing its own water resources. That's from a very practical standpoint. It's also important for recreational purposes and quality of life. I think if you don't have any restrictions on withdrawing waters, you might get to a situation where we don't have the ability to enjoy those waters, boating, fishing, things of that nature. So I think a water plan that balances the needs of industry against the right of the public to enjoy those waters is also important for quality of life.
Can you explain a little bit about the legislation the Senate is currently looking at?
There are two pieces of legislation that are in Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee right now. Actually, only one that's being considered. There were two bills that were filed, one by Senator Hayes and one by Senator Campbell. And the material difference between the two bills relates to the amount of water that remains in the river after withdrawal. The bill sponsored by Senator Hayes, which is favored by the environmental community, has a minimum flow that has to remain based upon seasonal flow standards. The one advocated by Senator Campbell and those that are more pro-industry, and those are very generic, general terms, but essentially that's the way it's referred to, would have just a set depth regardless of the season. I think it's more responsible in terms of being a steward of our resource to have that on a seasonal flow basis. And I'm particularly concerned being down here in Beaufort at the bottom of the Savannah River that we have good restrictions put in place because we're down at the bottom of the pipeline, so to speak. So if we don't preserve flow levels upstream, we're going to be really in a hard place. And you can see, storm clouds looming on the horizon. I mean, right now the only dispute we have with an adjacent state is with North Carolina over the Catawba River. But if you look down the road and if you look at the drought conditions that Atlanta experienced last year, I think it's only a matter of time before they turn their eyes eastward toward the Savannah River and go ahead and start to build a pipeline that's going to go ahead and dip its straw into the Savannah River. So we don't have any dispute with Georgia right now over the use of those waters, but when you get a 10 million plus city like Atlanta drawing water from the Savannah River, you're going to have a crisis on our hands. And it's incumbent upon us now to put in place a very responsible water plan so if and when we do have differences with Georgia, we've got our hand as strong as possible in terms of having a fair share of that water allocated to South Carolina.
Well, Senator Davis, thank you very much
Sure, my pleasure.
for sharing your insight as to why this is so important to South Carolina.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching My State Matters TV.